One of the main purposes and inspirations that I had to do this particular book was that I had seen many people come to my programs and generally be interested in meditation, and there was a lot of curiosity, yet at the same time there was a lot of preconceptions. People had a lot of ideas of what meditation was, and I found myself often trying to demystify the practice for people and trying to say it's a very simple practice and that it does not have to be that complicated. But at the same time, there's something to learn. There's something to engage in, and there's actually a lot to delve into because, in a sense, meditation is delving into our own mind. And from this point of view, one of the kind of main thrusts of what I'm trying to do with the practice of meditation is that I feel like every single person has the ability and capability to do the practice of meditation, regardless of really who they are, as long as they can understand some very basic principles, and also to incorporate the practice into their life. And even really one of the main things is keeping the sessions short, doing very brief 5 or 10-minute sessions, that it does not have to be this long process. And many people, I think, have an idea of meditation, and they have an image of maybe somebody sitting in a meditation cave or going off into some sort of deep trance and so forth. And really, that's not the full purpose of the practice, and one doesn't need to do that. If one chooses, one can go off into a cave, but really, whether one is in a cave or one is sitting here, it's the same mind. It's the same being. And many people spend much money and much time going to India or someplace exotic to look for a teacher and then meditate, and all of a sudden, guess who they find? It's the same person. And all of a sudden you say, I could have done this a lot cheaper. It would have been a lot easier. And sometimes it feels like we have a lot of ideas about the practice, and it becomes very spiritual. And what's interesting with the practice of meditation and how I was sort of introduced to it in terms of just every day, that it was very normal. I feel like it's like drinking water in the sense of everyday situation. And why I'm saying it's like drinking water or an everyday situation, because my understanding of meditation is that it is simply relating to your mind. When we use the word in Tibetan, we use the word meditation, we use the word gom. And gom has the root essence of the Tibetan word kom, and it means familiarity. Now in Tibetan, we have many, many different kinds of words for meditation. And obviously in English, there is one basic word. We can use concentration or mindfulness or contemplation, many things. But really, the word meditation is used over and over. But in Tibet, you could say there's not really one word, but there are different ways of describing the practice. But in general, the word is kom, which means familiarity. And the quality here is that we are becoming familiar. So the practice of meditation is I'm sitting still, becoming familiar with something. And as I become more familiar, my understanding and depth of the subject begins to really penetrate. Whether it's wisdom, whether it's compassion, or whether it's just simply following my breath, trying to relax, just relaxing with who we are. So there's always a notion that we're becoming familiar with something. And I think the key thing here is that what is it that we can become familiar with in meditation that is beneficial? And a lot of times in the beginning, because people come to meditation because they hear about the lack of, or you can say the amount of stress, and it reduces the stress. It helps us relax. So often in the beginning, we use the breath. The breath is something that's consistent, and when we breathe, we can exhale a lot of the tension. And breathing itself, in terms of the meditation principle, is very much connected with consciousness. And it helps in terms of the relaxation of the mind. It helps in terms of relaxation of the body. So initially, we become familiar with breathing. And I think that there's a lot of potency in the breathing, but one of the main principles is just settling down, having a sense of relaxation, having a sense of strength. And later, we can, if we want to go on a, for example, being a Buddhist, we meditate on compassion or wisdom or selflessness. Then later, we focus on those principles. We contemplate those words. We contemplate those meanings. We're becoming more and more familiar with that. And so from that point of view, people say, to me, I meditate or I do not meditate. And from my point of view, I say, well, actually, you're always meditating because you're always becoming familiar with something. You get up in the morning and we're constantly meditating. Now, generally speaking, we can look and say, is that meditation beneficial? What is it that we rise with? Often we rise in the morning and we have anxiety. We have anger. We have jealousy. So naturally, we're becoming familiar with jealousy. Somebody has something we want, and after a while, we are really good meditators. We do not wander at all. We're completely focused, and, so we know how to meditate. And the same thing with anger. It's like, we start contemplating, thinking about it in our mind. Even if we try to do something else, it comes back to anger. That person, I don't know what, they cut me off in traffic, I'm going to go get them now, and, we're going to chase them down the road, or later we're going to do something to somebody. So that's the other part of meditation, because meditation is contemplation, familiarity with the subject, and later it is action or engaged. And in Tibetan we say gom, and then what follows that is called chinli, or activity. Then we engage, because the point of meditation is that we're honing and we're strengthening something that's very important and precious, so that we can actually actualize it.